Hello viewers and those of you listening on Q Radio 103.3. Welcome back to yet another edition of the Viewpoint. I'm your host, Ceesay. Today I am joined by Coach Pasamba, renowned human rights activist and political pundit, and of course Gambia's own Dr. Ismaila. Yeah, we're not going to ask him where he was, but okay, welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Let's dive right in. It looks like there has been a lot of interesting developments in the Gambia. We're going to call this a recap of 2018. But first, there is something that a lot of people are talking about, which is the relationship between the president and the vice president. It's obvious we've had subliminal subs being thrown from both sides. What do you make of that?
Well, I think it is rather unfortunate that this is all happening. But I believe it is all because of Mr. Barrow's desire to continue to rule Dabo's calculation. What do I mean by Dabo's miscalculations? I think Dabo's biggest mistake was his utterances in 2017 when he told Adama Barrow, or told the whole Gambian population, that if Mr. Barrow were to be forced to step down after 3 years, he would go to court. Barrow took that literally and decided, you know what, the constitution also gives me the right to run again. I think what Barrow is doing is trying to also undermine Hussein Dabo in the process, because his initial goal was, you know what, let me do it through the UDP. And there was deliberate undermining of Mr. Dabo. Now we see this frosty relationship. And I think the people that are suffering are the governed. Of course, I don't think this government is doing anything that is the relationship. And I think the people that are suffering are the governed. Because I don't think this government is doing anything that is helping the Gambian people in the process where here talking about the vice president and the president not getting along, or Barrow staying for 5 years or 3 years and all these things, when this government should have just concentrated on the coalition agenda to be able to salvage this nation.
So how do you see the relationship between the president and the vice president?
Well, even a child born today
it's quite obvious.
The relationship.
But what does it mean as far as Gambian politics is concerned? Because this is very strange to see people in the same cabinet throwing subliminal subs at each other. Not just people, random people in a cabinet, but this is the president and the vice president we are talking about.
So, well, like I said, this is the most disunited cabinet the Gambia has ever had in our history. I mean, we feel it, like Coach has said. The losers are the Gambian people. These people were appointed or elected for a particular purpose. They are given a task after 22 years to rebuild the country, to reform certain institutions, to do certain reforms, the security sector reform, the constitutional reform the civil service, and so many other things that they have to do, build democratic institutions. And because of this political squabble, it is causing a problem. The Gambians are losing, they are not focusing on governing, are focusing on politics. And that is the problem. That is the unfortunate bit of it. And everybody knows that, like Coach has said, all of them have their eye on the trophy. Barrow wants to go, and now Barrow is focusing on entrenching himself in power. He wants to go beyond 2021. In fact, he's not even thinking about 3 years now. He's thinking of going beyond 2021. And obviously, Dabo has had ambition to become president, and he's seeing Barrow as a stumbling block to those ambitions. That is why there's a collision course. I mean, this is causing a friction between the two of them, and Gambians are losing. And for me, I think, I've said this before, that the acrimony within the coalition is not good for the Gambia. We elected the coalition government to do a particular job. We gave them a task to rebuild our country after 20 years of dictatorship, and now they have failed miserably.
Talking about the coalition, Coach, do you think it still exists?
In name only, because the coalition was established for a reason. There was a coalition agenda. The agenda has been shoved aside by Barrow, and we now have he is governing by billboards. That's why everywhere you go, you see big billboards, promises kept, and
promises made and promises kept. Yeah.
But that is not the reality of the Gambian people. And this government, the only thing that they can tout as progress is the establishment of commissions. Now, of course, the economy stabilized technically, but the people in the bottom are still feeling the pains, because the rubber is the order of the day in this country. So, as far as I'm concerned, we have a coalition by name, but we now have an executive president, not a coalition president. So, my own estimation is no coalition. What is happening though is Barrow building his own coalition, and this is why you've seen people like Mai Fati being brought back. This is why he has retained Henry Gomez. This is why Ahmad Bah has become his best friend. This is why Dr. Toure is also in that inner circle. So, what he is doing in the process, instead of governing according to the coalition agenda, he is consolidating himself by surrounding himself with coalition partners, not to solve the Gambian people's problem, but to continue being president of this country. So, as far as I'm concerned, there is no coalition.
How do you see him bringing back Mai Fati?
Well, I mean, I was flabbergasted I wouldn't imagine my father taking that position. I mean, you cannot be a special advisor to a political competitor. By all indications, President Barrow has ambitions to run again for office. If that happens, I don't think that will happen. We're not encouraging him to do that because that will be a setback for our democracy. But if it happens, I wouldn't imagine my party leading a political party, an ambition to become president, being an advisor to a competitor. So for me, I really didn't I didn't see the logic there why my party is really, like Coach is saying, Barrow is building a coalition within a coalition and to keep the coalition divided for his own personal political agenda. And I think this is very, very, it's very hard for our democracy. It will undo everything that we've really been working for.
So what's your position on the MOU?
The MOU, I think my position is very clear that a man has nothing but his words, and your words are your honor. And I think President Barrow must respect the MOU. And I would give Barrow the advice of the century. He must step down after 3 years, if that is in the MOU, until and unless he consults the coalition partners and they decide otherwise. But as we speak now, MOU says 3 years, Barrow must step down. Anything, if Barrow wants to do anything beyond that, he's doing disservice to himself and to the Gambia. My advice to President Barrow is to step down with dignity. Step down at a time when the whole world will applaud him. When the Gambian people will applaud him, they look, Africa has had over 150 leaders since independence. Only 6 has managed or has left office voluntarily without being kicked out either through elections or through. Only 6 out of 153 leaders. Senghor is amongst them. Mwalimu Nyerere is amongst them, and this guy Ajijio of Cameroon is amongst them, and we have other 3 leaders. Now, this gives Barrow the chance to be the 7th president in the whole African continent since independence, step down voluntarily from power. He'll be hailed by the international community as a democrat, as someone who really stood his words. He might even win the Mo Ibrahim Foundation for Good Governance. He might win it. He will have all the privileges of a former head of state, provided for by the Gambian constitution, with all the perks it comes with. He'll be respected by the Gambian people. Live as a statesman inside the Gambia. He'll be respected. Tempting to do otherwise too, trying to run again for office. There is no guarantee that he will win. And if he loses, in the way things are going, with the amount of money he's pumping in the Barrow Youth Movement, the amount of money he's using to lure people at incentives to bring people to the BYM, we might go for another commission of inquiry.
Talking about the Barrow Youth Movement, are we watching the formation of his own political party?
Well, yes. I believe it is quite obvious that, like I said earlier, Barrow's first attempt was to go through the UDP. When that became impossible, we all know whether they do it today, tomorrow, or whatever. It is in the inevitable thing that he's going to do. This man, I believe, is drunk with power. He has tasted the presidency and doesn't want to leave. And I believe he is going to form a political party. And of course, there will be no shortage of sycophants, because this culture of sycophancy is our biggest problem. Who will be surrounding him and clapping for him and urging him on? Why is Barrow using Jammeh's tent, this green tent, and bring people from the Sarahule community, the community from URR and all these things coming there? What is he doing? It is his same playbook, Jammeh's playbook. You all remember when Jammeh was saying, I'm a soldier with difference, I'm not interested in power. What were they doing? Brought people to the State House, begging him to run. He said, well, people have asked me to run. And we'll be hearing the same thing from Barrow. But the Gambian people must resist it. If Barrow wants to continue, we have a way to teaching him a lesson. And that is to reject him at the polls. Because Barrow cannot and must not succeed himself. And Barrow must not go past the 3 years. An agreement is an agreement. He must honor it or be discarded by the Gambian people.
And how do we stop that if he doesn't honor it?
Well, let me tell you something. Jammeh was more powerful than Barrow, Mr. President. I know you talk about economic. Jammeh was crazier than Barrow. There was this belief by Gambian people around the world, he could not be defeated. Remember how lonely this fight was. But when the Gambian people were determined to kick him out, he was out. And what I'm asking Gambians to do is organize themselves. This culture of following leaders and clapping for them should be a thing of the past. Look at the Gambia. We've been independent for close to 54 years. A country that has been in existence for 54 years and is still fighting to have proper water and electricity supply. A country that would have a big fanfare because a road is erected and they're opening it. The whole government machinery would have to come to a standstill just because they're opening a road. Shows you how unserious we are. We cannot continue to have our young dying in the oceans. We cannot continue to have pregnant women dying because they could not have proper medical care. We cannot continue to have people using donkey carts as ambulances. And the only way we can change that is to discard all these incompetent leaders like Barrow, Jammeh, because Barrow is proving to be incompetent. I am not buying his billboards and all these great speeches that he writes. People write speeches forever. But at the end of the day, what have they done to change the lives of the Gambian people? Nothing. Our people are tired, sick and tired of this situation, and it must change. And Barrow must be confronted. People must organize themselves. Because no more than 3 years, and if he continues, he should be defeated mercilessly at the polls, just to take a lesson to any other person that power resides in the people, not a person because you've been given the presidency.
Talking about the polls, I'm afraid we're going to have the presidential candidates will be a lot in the next presidential elections. The more the merrier. What do you think?
Yeah, that is what we are anticipating. There'll be a lot, but we don't know. I mean, things change in politics. Now the political space is freer. People are free to come up with their own political parties. We need alternatives. See, we have a problem in the Gambia. Our population is 1.8 million. Let's go back to Africa a bit and I'll come back to Gambia. Africa's population today is 1.3 billion. In a generation, it will double to almost 2 to 2.5 billion people. Are we ready to house 2 billion people? Let's come to the Gambia a bit. We are 1.8 today. Rate at which we are producing, we might go up to 3 to 4 million people within a generation. Are we ready to accommodate a generation? We have proper housing, proper jobs. Is the economy good enough to sustain those 3.3 million people? And the way current education system, our health sector, our housing, our infrastructure is so poor that I see that we cannot house these people. We have to think about the future. We have to build this country for the future. And most of these 3 million people will be having in the Gambia within a generation, where 70% will be young people. And what do young people need? Schools, vocational institutes. They need educational institutes. They need jobs. We have those jobs for them. Right now, our economic system is based on what? Loans and grants. This cannot change the country. I mean, I've seen Barrow going around laying foundation stones for bridges. And I've been building bridges for Africans for 50 years. It makes us even poorer. It did not change anything. It will not change our lives. It will not change the lives of generations to come. We have to start, like I said, we need a paradigm shift in our thinking. And so far as our development is concerned. Therefore, next elections is a turning point for the Gambia. The leaders we choose to elect to lead this country will determine how we go. And this generation is the golden generation. Next generation may not be equipped enough to change this country. It takes a generation to transform the country. The generation must transform, must start the transformation now. Otherwise, we are doomed. We are equipped enough. The young people are equipped enough. The next generation, because of the kind of people we are producing in our schools, we might not be equipped enough next 25 years to come to transform this country. If this generation fails to transform the Gambia will never transform. Therefore, Gambians must be very wary. Make that we elect the leaders in the next elections who will transform this country. Transformative leaders with a vision, leaders that can bring innovative ideas with a new paradigm shift in terms of development is concerned. You cannot, you see, no country has developed by relying on foreign aid and grants. I haven't seen it yet. Show me. There's empirical evidence. We have to start thinking outside of the box. We have to, you see, since independence, our leaders have been looking elsewhere for the developmental solutions of the Gambia. They've been looking at the wrong places. It is inside. We have to look inwards. We have everything we need to develop this country. We have a young generation. We have over 65% of our population are young people. Industrious, hardworking, talented. We have the ocean. We have the sea. We have the river Gambia. We have a fertile soil. What else do we want? What we need is people who are ready to work and people who are ready to bring in a new kind of thinking, to use these resources, harness them for the development of this country. And I think that is what the Gambians must look for in the next election.
Coach, let's get back to politics a little bit. We've seen all the political parties having their congresses. It seems like there's another impasse with the PPP. What does that mean to you? So it's supposed to be something they refer to as reviving the party. It seems like they started off from the wrong foot.
I think they did. And I think what had happened here is the postponed ruler of the PPP has finally faced up with them. And that is, and Jawara wanted to step down in 1992. And there was a big uproar. People were crying, we'll not let you go, and others. Maybe they saw something. Because then, maybe some of those watching are too young. There was something that was being said. There were two camps ready. Bibi Dabo was ready to succeed Jawara. Because somebody was ready. They all had their camps. When Jawara decided to come back, it was diffused. And of course, 1994 coup came, and that was a thing of the past. Now, what we've seen is now those same guards, old guards, are still interested in leading. Now we see Bibi Dabo coming, winning it. Papanjai, who is backed by OJ, winning it. But I believe that it is a big setback for the PPP. PPP is faced with something that no other political party is faced. It is faced with being relevant again and reviving itself. Now, if your first attempt at that is a serious impasse, then you have a problem. So I believe the biggest loser in the whole process here, this so-called Congress that they have, which I believe is nothing but a coronation for the most part, I think is the PPP.
Do you think they're capable of a comeback?
Well, that's a very difficult question to answer. But the way they've started, I'm not very happy. I mean, the only positive thing is that at least of all the political parties that have been to Congress, that the only one that did not do a coronation. At least we saw a kind of an election between two contending parties who want to lead the party. All other parties, we just installing the previous leaders. But I think, like Coach has said, it's very bad to start with. I mean, the PPP is the founding party. It's the party that led us to independence. It's been in existence for over 50 years. And I think it should be the one to really show an example, all the other parties an example, because all the parties came after them. I think apart from DOI is the next oldest apart from NCP. Then all these other parties, NCP, DOI and PPP, these are the parties from the 70s. DOI is 86, obvious NCP is 83 or something like that. 75. Well, I think for me, they should have really set the example. I mean, they shouldn't have really allowed this to escalate to a level whereby seeing a political impasse happening within the party. And I hope that it's still not too late. I think they can still go inwards and sit and see how they can resolve the issue.
Do you think Papa Njai is ready for Gambian politics? Is he ready for the political scene?
I think so. I think every Gambian who is of voting age and can be elected is ready for the political scene. But I think what the PPP must ask themselves is who is best at reviving our party. It would have been nice if they had handled their business very well, because then I think PPP was established in 1959. They would have celebrated about 60 years in 2019. That would have been the nicest thing. But they are getting into it in a very chaotic way. And if rumors are spreading through that BB might from his own political party, I think that would pretty much spell the doom of the PPP and this revival project that they are in. But Papa, I like Papa. He's a nice guy. Hey, the more the merrier, like you said.
Like the more the merrier. And talking about the more the merrier, how do you feel about Ahmad Ba, NRP? They also had their Congress.
No, I mean, that was not a Congress. I mean, that was just, I don't know what that was. I mean, the rhetoric speech he gave has nothing to do with the realities on the ground. I mean, it was just politicking. And for me, that wasn't a Congress. I think that was just another convergence of NRP to see how they can try to. And for me, NRP, the way they are also cozy with the Barrow, I think they'll be co-opted eventually by Adama Barrow if it goes on to form his party.
That's quite interesting, like you said, politicking. And there's something that I've noticed in Gambian politicians. When they go out to the people, I don't see them talking about policies. What do you make of that?
It does. Though it talks about policies every time, and they are made out to be boring. I think it's sad, and this is why I believe, like your question that you asked, Doctor, about these many political parties that are coming. I believe that there is a lot of political parties that are not fit with all political parties.
What is the barrier of entry in the first place?
I don't know. But my issue here is, if you have a leader who cannot explain basic economics to you, well, of course, that person is never going to talk about policies. So they would rather tasu and do all these other things, the sabar, the surubas and all this. Because like we used to say, Sangara Bahne Dokonani, Bendapaga Konane, the sabar gek, Bukara Bube and all these things. So you are confused, you are not told the truth. And this is why I believe that you must not allow this process to continue like that. The political space must be saturated with qualified candidates who will be forced to talk about policy and issues. But you know what's going to change? You have the Viewpoint now. You have the Perspective. You have Daraji. You have all these shows that will be inviting political leaders and asking the question. How are you going to revive our economy? What are you going to do to solve our debt problem? And this is where Gambians will be able to separate the competent from the incompetence. And I believe it is a process, and I am just happy that we are at a time now when the media is free and everybody is now interested in ideas. And this is where the role of the media is going to be very, very important. But like you said, we got to continue to have these things. You have Ahmad Ba, he's my guy with this big hat and talk about things about Jame wanted to make the vice president during the impasse. I'm like, are you kidding me? You had 7 other people who were part of the coalition. Halifa Saleh was there, Hussein was there, Ahmad was not Ahmad. Everybody was there, but Jame chose you out of all those people and said, you know what, I want to make you vice president. That says a lot about your character. And you look at all the other parties. You have a party leader, the wife being the deputy party leader. It's not a political party. So the seriousness would come. You media people start doing your work, enlightening the people so that we'll be able to at least have competent people to
But
run.
I'll add on to that.
Go ahead.
The politics of mediocrity is over in this country. All these political parties are thinking that it's business as usual, are fooling themselves. Things are going to change in this country insofar as politics is concerned. We are not going to allow any mediocrity anymore in this country. That is why, like Pasamba has said, we'll get alternatives in this country and politics will change for good.
Then how about the rise of opportunists too? Because we have seen people who've worked in the previous government try to bounce back into this one. What do you say about that?
See, if there is one thing that Jammeh showed when he was president, is the level of lack of dignity of our people, where imams would turn themselves into sycophants, where people who were considered as caliphs would turn themselves into sycophants. You know, we have this culture of Siboro. Now, if you understand Siboro mooy koo xam ne dafa jéem moo ñëwee sa boor ci booram ko jëriñoo ci moom. So these are people who lack credibility, lack integrity. But you see, to me, the people that are worst are not only people that are people, the seeding guys of the world and all the sycophants that are there following Barrow because of money, but the people who encourage it. Because for Barrow, just close his eyes. I'm going to say it as it is. For Barrow to just close his eyes to reality and say, you know what, just because due to political expediency, I don't care about your character. As long as you support me, come to me. But this is why, like Doctor said, we have to change our culture. We have to go back to the basics. Mando, dignity and integrity should be what guides people. What am I going to get from following you for $1,000? For what? So unless we change our ways, this culture will continue. But it's not a new thing. It has been here for a very long time. Now, the advent of social media, we now see them and we'll call them out. If you are an opportunist, we'll just call you what you are. But the opportunists are those who have nothing to offer to the people, and they will be just the gewels. And when I say gewel, of these political leaders and just clapping for them for funds.
And then APRC elected Jammeh as their supreme leader, as they put it, and hopefully their next candidate for the next president's elections. What do you think about it? Is that some sort of strategy or
I
something?
think it's a strategy because I don't think he's even qualified to head a party in so far as electoral laws are concerned. I mean, you must be resident in country to be in the executive of a political party. So for me, I think there's a strategy behind that. We don't know this. We don't want to speculate on the strategy yet. We are just observing to see how things evolve from here to 2021.
That's right. Now, Coach, a couple of weeks ago, Barrow was in URR, like you said, he was there inaugurating and launching things, bridges and roads, which were sponsored by the People's Republic of China. And he said a lot of things during that meeting. And one of the things he said was that if there is any saboteur in my government, will ask you to either resign or you will be fired.
You see, unfortunately, this pettiness must stop because it does not help Gambian people. Barrow has the constitutional powers to appoint and dismiss ministers without even telling us why. Is why he fired Maifati, told us nothing. He fired OJ, told us nothing. Fired Ratambajan, told us nothing. But that shows Barrow has a problem. He has to solve that problem. He has to have the courage to govern, maybe step out of the way. Because to sit there and guard Wale people, what's he talking about? Because when he said that, what people talk about, oh, is he talking about Usinu Dabo? Or is he talking about somebody else? So if you feel that, I don't know whether it was Dabo, but my feeling tells me that, because that was maybe a response to what Usinu said that was also attributed to him talking to Barrow, like the messages that we are saying. If you feel that Mr. Dabo is not the one that you want to work with, rely on your constitutional powers and let it go. But the Gambian people do not have the luxury of this tesante. Don't. Those Gambians have turned into beggars. You live here, everybody is here. You go out here, somebody will stop you. And it's real. I was in Sareng, what do they call that? Sarengai or in Sanjal recently. I went through villages. I see the living conditions of our people. Exactly. People live in abject poverty. Mr. Barrow is not ready to govern. Like doing why he was elected in office, maybe he needs to do the reasonable, the honorable thing by resigning. But sitting there and throwing shades at people who does not want. Listen, we've had enough of that with Yaya Jammeh. This was why we got him out of the way, so we'll elect a serious government under a serious president to do the work of the people and not throw shades at people talking about Garawal. If somebody doesn't want to work for you, hey, the person, you know who they are. Unless he is paranoid. If he's not paranoid, then he knows exactly who is there to sabotage it. If they are fire the person. You don't even have to explain it to us because the constitution gives you that power.
But, Coach, you said that the Gambian economy is stable, technically.
Well, technically.
Like,
Because, you go, the IMF will tell you, or the economy is stable, we'll have 6% growth or GDP, and you've had the budget speech. But you know very well that the average Gambian people doesn't feel that. Those economic indicators means nothing to the farmer who farmed the whole season and could not sell his crops. Or even if he were able to sell the crops, he would not even have enough to feed his family for more than 2 months. Or the person who is grade 1, whose salary maybe now is increased to 2,000 plus. You buy a bag of rice, you're not even able to pay this thing, pay for your rent. So the economy technically is stable, but it has sunk to a level that is unimaginable because our people continue to live in abject poverty. While the president and his gang, I just saw today, I was reading the paper, and the bidding, State House, 700, I think it's about 760 bags of rice. I'm like, who eats this? Because they have this tender for bidding to supply the State House with some of these goods, and you look at it, and you see the extravagant lifestyle that they have at the State House, while the Gambian people are living on pittance and misery. And I think it is high time for Gambians to open their eyes and elect a leader that would...
Talking about luxury, that takes us back to the budget that was published by the National Assembly. What do you make of that?
In the supplemental bill or the...
All of it together.
I think the thing is, it's unfortunate that the budget for 2018 fiscal year was almost $19 billion. And they came 2 weeks before the fiscal year ends and said they needed another 1.2 billion. And the House rejected it because they knew partly it was because of the extravagance of the presidency, hiring private jets, flying around the world, and the way they spend money. And the way the office of the president eats money, it's too much. I mean, even under Jammeh's era, the Jammeh's presidency did not eat money like that. So we need to know how are they spending that money. And unfortunately, they bypassed democratic procedure. They went back to the House and they passed the supplementary appropriation bill, although it was reduced to $500 billion. I understand that civil society organizations are trying to the court to get that reversed, but I don't know how that will end. But I think for the 2019 fiscal year, I think they said they want $25 billion. But what we are saying is that, like Coach has said, macroeconomically, the economy has stabilized, and that's not only Gambia. It's been enough. If you remember, Africa rising because of growth rates were increasing, but it doesn't reflect on the lives of the people. People are getting poorer. I mean, growth rates, GDP increasing, growth rates increasing, and reflect on the lives of the poor people, and people are getting poorer. And why that is the case is because we still cannot find a kind of an economic model that will lift people out of poverty. The economic model we have now is just based on getting growth rates. You know, it all is just to satisfy.
There is no part of the budget that says confronting poverty in this country. I think this is just a quick fix.
But we have to move away from reducing poverty.
Oh yeah, I know he doesn't like that.
To generating wealth.
Well, yeah.
How do we make sure that people are lifted? I mean the type of poverty that Coach is talking that's happening in the country, it's unthinkable in 21st century. It's not supposed to happen. People can live, people can work the whole month. They can't even buy a bag of rice for themselves. That is not supposed to happen in a 21st century country. Now we need to have a progressive economic model, a new economic thinking that can lift a majority of people out of poverty. China has done it. Within a decade, they've lifted a lot of Chinese out of poverty. We have to start thinking along those lines. And believe me, our debt ratio today is high. I mean, the amount of money we pay in debt servicing alone can lift many people from poverty. So we have to start. We need to bring all our economists, our big economists to sit on the table to see how we can really fix our economy. It's a problem. So for me, GDP is increasing, growth is, for me, those are not the issues. For me, it's about how it affects on people's lives. For me, how to solve our health crisis. Today, our health sector is dying. Education system is poor. We need to solve all these problems, and we need thinking to solve these problems.
I hope if you are asked to join the Baro Youth Movement, you wouldn't join them.
Baro Youth Movement, what will I do there? For me, I don't even see the reason why we should have a Baro Youth Movement. Baro was appointed to do a job. We have government, we have institutions of governance that are supposed to do those jobs. If you want to bring development to villages, you use those institutions, established state institutions to do that. For me, I don't see the reason why we should have a borough youth movement. It's all politics.
Well, he's defended it when he went to URR. In one of his speeches, he was like, he basically acknowledged the group, saying that in every society you go to, in every ethnicity, everywhere you go to, and in every party, of course, I don't know if that was shaped to other political parties, they have their groups. So why do people have a problem with the borough youth movement?
Is a president. The president is not elected to form a youth movement to pursue his or her development agenda. That is not why we elect the president. It is wrong for President Barrow to have a youth movement. And if the youth movement is an independent body that was created to help President Barrow or to help
they always claim to be,
they should not even name the movement after President Barrow, because presidents come and go. If the youth movement is being instituted to help in Gambia's development, as any other CSO or NGO should name it after whatever name, but not after a president who might go. So what happens to the youth movement if President Barrow leaves today? Will they be disbanded? So for me, it is wrong for the president to be associated with any youth movement. That is not what he's been elected to do. It's all politics and the people who are paying the price. And if President Barrow thinks that he can recycle former Jammeh enablers to help him win, he's fooling himself. Because Gambians will not be fooled twice. We know these people. We know what they did for Jammeh. We know what they did for the previous government. And he cannot bring them back to fool Gambians again for him to entrench himself. He's fooling himself. They are a spent force. They cannot bring any value to him. I can tell you that. So what he needs to do is to focus on the institution. Problem we are having now today. Look at the security sector reform, for example. What has it stalled? Why is economic still in this country? Doing what? The Gambia is not a state of war. Even Barrow himself acknowledged that Gambia is a peaceful country. What are foreign forces doing on our sovereign soil? What are they doing here? Because he thinks that he can prolong their stay because they can back him. No, he's fooling himself. It's time for us to entrust the security of this country to our men and women in uniform or in our barracks who are being paid to do that. It's time for economic to leave our soil because they have no business here. So he's delaying on the security sector reform because he knows that if the security sector reform is being implemented to the full, you will stop paying for the economic forces. And he doesn't want that. He wants them to stay. Coach?
You see the Barrow Youth Movement, that shows another inconsistency of this government, especially President Barrow and his State House. In October of 2017, there was a press statement out from the State House that said that the president's name should not be associated with any movement. We all remember that.
Yeah.
December 1st, we saw that famous picture with Barrow. I think he must have just finished a full bowl of Benachin. His belly was here. And then with the, clad in the T-shirt Barrow Youth Movement, everybody was, what the heck is going on? Because people were shocked. I'm like, okay, did they just say 2 months ago that he had nothing to do with it? And here he was unannounced and people were shocked with his family wearing their t-shirt. And then what did he do? Went around the country, in the farmer store or meet the people store, which is constitutionally mandated. Talk to the people, listen to them, not go there and have fanfare. Listen to them, their concerns, so that you can help. What did they hear? What did we hear? The whole thing was nothing about Wi-Fi, bridges, and building mosque by the Barrow Youth Movement. He spent the whole taxpayers project talking about a movement that I believe is nothing but an other demonstration of sycophancy, this culture of sycophancy where you gather all these people to just come with you, come for you, dance for you, and wear your t-shirts. Those things should be over, and I think Barrow must be serious because he must understand is where we came from. We came from a very difficult period. For 22 years, the growth of this country was stunted by a crazy man, supported by crazy people. Today, the crazy man is gone. Barrow has surrounded himself with those very crazy people. And the end result will be what? Disaster, because the people are not going to enjoy the freedom that they fought for. Of course, and he must stop telling that I give people freedom. You did not. We gave it to ourselves and we will not allow anybody to take it away from us. But at the end of the day, unless he gets his act together, the ordinary Gambians will continue to suffer. And that was not why we fought. For 22 years, people died, people went to jail, people went in exile and all that. That was not why we fought. We fought for a better Gambia. And we must not be satisfied with only defeating a dictator. It was a greater agenda to this than just defeating Jammeh. Jammeh was just an obstacle to our development. The objective was to develop our country. economically, politically, socially, culturally, and all other aspects. Not just sitting there and just talking about in 3 months, I was able to remove him. No, you did not. The Gambian people removed him after 22 years of hard fight.
2019 is a turning point, something he's been saying a lot these days. What do you think?
Well, I think we should ask him that question. Turning point for what? I heard him talking about his boss. That he's the bus driver.
The bus driver.
It's the 21st century. People are thinking of building jet planes and railways, and he's thinking of a bus. I mean, for me, well, that question is for him. I mean, I think he started the job now. He's dropping off some people. I think they started dropping off people from the bus, taking in some people. So let's see how far the bus goes.
What do you think about the people he's been dropping off lately?
Well,
Fired his advisor, Lamin Cham.
And why was Lamin Cham appointed?
Yusufa Cham.
So we are dealing with this joke of politics. Obama would call it the silly season of politics. Yusufa Cham was Barrow, he retained him. As soon as Yusufa Cham went to that Congress and became UDP, okay, now dude, you gotta go. So was Yusufa Cham advising Barrow in the national interest, or was that position just created so that he would be a supporter of President Barrow? And this is the thing, and like you said, the turning point. The only turning point that will be happening in 2019 would be the naked betrayal of the Gambian people. Because when this coalition went around the world, everywhere they told people they're here to stay for 3 years, and then the president would oversee elections that he will not participate in, and we'll have a new beginning. So 2019 would be a demonstration of that betrayal of trust, ahead of the highest order. So that's the only thing that Barrow can do now, because he doesn't have the capacity. The government doesn't have the capacity to better the lives of the Gambian people, because it is a very disjointed government. The left does not know what the right is doing. You have the State House and you have the ministries, and every day there is contradiction between them. So, but at the end of the day, there is a joke that we are dealt with, and unfortunately, we have to deal with it.
So do you sense any sort of dictatorial tendencies from him?
Yes. It's become more of a demagogue. Look at the way he's hiring and firing, using his powers to hire and fire people based on his whims and caprices, depending on whether you agree or disagree with him. And look at the way he sacked Yusufa Cham, obviously. Look at the way they sacked Amamital from the OIC because of, I mean, by all indication, that's a politically motivated sacking. Obviously, that's how dictators start. I mean, dictatorships are not only supposed to be brutal. It's about also having very little regard constitutional provisions, and we've seen that. I mean, Barrow has very little regard for constitutional provisions. Manner in which it's receiving money left, right, and center from anonymous donors is a violation of the constitution. So obviously, we've seen some dictatorial tendencies in Barrow, and the fact that he sat with his colleague contemporaries and agreed on a 3-year term, organized elections that he will not take part in. The fact that he wants to betray that's a dictatorial tendency. The fact that he doesn't even want to consult his partners to discuss the way forward, that's a dictatorial tendency. So for me, by all indications, I see leadership in Adama Barrow.
Coach?
Absolutely. Guess what? Any dictator, the Barrow, or Jai, or whatever, better be ready for the fight that he would get. Because one thing I have told people, nobody is going to send me in exile again for the rest of my life. And for my life is dedicated to the fight for the liberation, total liberation of our country. So people like myself and like-minded people not sit around and allow any dictator, tin pot or otherwise. So my advice to Mr. Barrow is, you cannot scare us, and that's right, he could not. He scared few. We will fight because we love our democracy, and we will not allow anybody, irrespective of who you are and whatever powers you possess, whether it's your economic or the SIS or your army or your police, whatever you call it, do not be scared, because it's too good to be lost again. We've lost it in 1994, 22 years, we are not going to lose it again. So if I were Mr. President, I would focus on addressing the basic needs and aspirations of this country, and thinking about the legacy that I will leave behind, like what Doctor advised you, so that you will be a respectable former head of state who would be invited to deliver lectures around the world. Your paid salaries. The Obamas get $100,000 per lecture. You know, you will be the one called by the United Nations, saying, you know what, go to country X, they have a problem. Please, we want you to lead that delegation, you get money. You win the more Abraham Foundation, 5 million. Every year you get, I think, about 100,000 on top of that. You will be respected. You can write books. I know you cannot write them, but we have ghost writers all over the place. They will write it for you. It will be your story. It will be a story that will be read by everybody. Just the same way that the Chadians are calling me, the Eritreans are calling us or calling other people and say, you know what, how did you do it? How were you able to destroy a dictator? Imagine if President Barrow were to write a book. he will be invited. We've seen Halifa Saleh invited to give lectures in the United States. Universities have, 2 universities have offered him, you know what, write your book, we'll publish it for you. Imagine if Barrow were to do the right thing and step down when he was supposed to step down and go around the world and be respected as that African leader who gave a promise and kept his promise.
It looks like we are running out of time. I will let you wrap it up, Doctor.
Thank you. It's been very interesting. And like I said, 2019 is a turning point for Barrow. It's a turning point for the Gambian people. Like I said, gone are the days when we'll allow mediocre politics in this country. We don't have any time remaining. We need to transform this country, and the work starts now with this generation. Therefore, work starts now, and therefore, any politician who thinks that it's business as usual, you are fooling yourself. We Gambian people will not be taken for a ride anymore. And the next elections is a serious turning point for the Gambia. It will decide which way Gambia takes, whether we are going for a progressive Gambia or for a stagnant or retrogressive Gambia. And like I said, the more the merrier. Any politician, any aspiring politician, any young Gambian who thinks that you have an alternative to offer to the Gambian people, the political space is open. The Gambian people will decide who they will vote for. And again, on a final note, the 3 years is 3 years. Let Barrow start thinking along those lines, that the Gambian people will not allow self-perpetuating rule anymore in this country.
Thank you very much. It looks like we already ran out of time. Thank you very much, Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, and of course, Coach Pasamba. Thank you very much for coming to the show, gentlemen. It was a really interesting conversation. Well, this now brings us to the end of this edition of The Viewpoint. Thank you very much for watching, and of course, thank you very much for listening on Q Radio. Do join us next week for another exciting episode. Thank you very much, and bye for now.